Hello and welcome back to Yorkshire Railway, and welcome back to the dust settled wastelands that is September, and we're here to talk about Hornby's price rise. So unfortunately, as of the 1st of September, Hornby has increased its prices, and roughly it's about 10% to equate for inflation as such. It was put out a few weeks before. Reason I didn't really want to make a video on it at the time was I was just gathering a bit more information before I decided to put this out, as well as my thoughts on the price increases as well. So, why has Hornby done this? Now, it's no secret they've had a £7 million loss over the year, the financial year. So yeah, it's a lot of money to lose. You're certainly going to notice that if that wasn't in your wallet, and it's it probably is down to that, which is why they've decided to increase their prices. Also, they've got new management structure after Simon Kohler has left, so maybe they are looking a bit more into tightening down and trying to recoup some of those losses. It's certainly been evident in the release catalogue that there is less being released each year than, say, it was, I think it was 2021, 2022, which some of these models have still yet to surface from production. They're slowly coming through, but there's a lot that still haven't seen the light of day. Nova 1 being particular that I don't really understand why that's taking so long, but yeah, there's a few that are still on the way. Also the East Anglian Flirt, that has shown progress but still hasn't been released as of yet, I believe. So yeah, it seems the right thing for Hornby to do is to shrink their range a little bit and focus on getting these models out to customers who've been waiting years now for them. Obviously, it's a little bit of a downside for us as the customer, because we're now having to pay a lot more for models. And don't get me wrong, this hobby isn't a cheap hobby. It's certainly one of the more expensive hobbies out there, but I think we as customers probably need to take a look at what we actually need ourselves. I know I certainly have been. I've sort of gone through this thing of, and I probably blame the internet and things like that, is that, you see somebody post a new model and you think, I want that model, I've got to have that model, I need it now. And that sort of lifestyle just means that, one, you're spending more money than you actually have disposable, which means you're then having to cut back on other things. Certainly puts more strains on your home bills and even relationships, really. If you're there spending £200 on a loco, but your other half isn't having diddly squat, it's a bit of a strain, really. And if you're wanting to do that every single month to get this new locomotive, sometimes you just have to go, I can't afford it. It's simple as that. You either take a little bit every month and save up and have what I've generally been sort of looking at is, rather than buying multiple locomotives a year, I'm probably buying maybe 1, 2, rather than every month. Like when I was first getting back into collecting, it was pretty much every payday I was like, right, I'm buying this, I'm buying that, I'm buying that, and before you know it, I've probably spent half my wages on new models. Whereas certainly that was before I had a house and everything. But yeah, I've had to reevaluate my sort of lifestyle with the modelling. Is that, yeah, I'm not getting multiple locomotives a year. I might get multiple rolling stock a year because it's a lot cheaper, and I can certainly say, oh, I didn't have it this month, but I can justify £25 to £40, £50 for a piece of rolling stock, but I can't justify £250 for a locomotive. That's probably more what I'm reserving as really birthday and Christmas. That's more or less what I'm going to do, is just ask for a new model, and that's what I'll be getting. It's simple as that, really. Now, going back obviously to the whole price increase thing. It is a bit of a shame is that what I have noticed is some retailers, and I'm not going to name them, but I have noticed that some retailers have added the price increase to existing stock, which I think is a little bit on the naughty side. They've paid that at a discount rate, and all they're getting from that is they're getting more money from your pocket. Whereas I think what would have been probably a better idea for some of them to do is just go, look, this is all the stock that we have from Hornby pre-price increase. This is the price. Once it's gone, this is the price it will be. And yeah, it might generate a little bit of panic buying, but at least that way you're not going to be paying a 10% increase on something that they're the only ones benefiting from. Hornby aren't benefiting from that, and neither are we. It's only the retailers. So certainly if you are a retailer watching this and you have done that, yeah, I don't really think that is the right thing that you should have done. But who am I? I don't own a shop or anything like that. And obviously I do work in retail, so I do know a lot about retailing and merchandising, but it's not for me to say what you can and can't do, but I just don't think it's the right thing to have done. Now it comes to the next thing as well, is that a lot of people going, it's the doom and gloom, it's the nail in the coffin for Hornby, and look, it's not going to be. There's going to be plenty more that Hornby can do to put that nail in the coffin, and I don't think having a inflation price rise is going to be it. It's certainly one of those things, that I think a lot of people don't understand is you've got the smaller manufacturers like Accurascale, Rapido. They might have in a grand total of their whole workforce, and that's in terms of manufacturing, accountancy, social media, they might have like 20 people working for them, which, don't get me wrong, 20 people is a lot of people to pay every month. But Hornby might have, Hornby are a lot bigger company, so they might have like 20 people just working in their factory. That's not taking into account the accountants, HR, all that jazz that is a big business. So they've got a lot more workforce, bigger factory, more electricity to pay for. So you've got your utilities, water, gas, electricity. That's obviously going to be bigger in a bigger company. The wages are going to be bigger because they've got more workforce, so therefore more money is going out on wages. And really, looking at it, if you were thinking, I'd really like to buy this model, but it's too expensive. Why is it so expensive? Oh, well, I'll tell you what, if I sack half my workforce, I can actually keep the model at that time, but it means that there will be slower progress and not as many models will be put out, so therefore they become a bit more rarer. Would you enjoy that as well? I don't think many people would. I think, paying that little 10% increase, although it stings, it's not as bad as saying, people losing their jobs, because in this current climate, and I'm not going to get all political because that's not what this channel's about, but nobody actually knows what's going to happen in the country, and the last thing anybody wants is for somebody to lose their jobs. I mean, easiest thing is to look at the gaming industry at the minute. It's a right mess with people losing their jobs. So yeah, the last thing we need is for people at Hornby to get sacked. Well, not sacked, but let go and made redundant, because nobody wants to buy anything or have a simple pay increase. It's just what the current climate is at the moment, and although it's painful, we're just going to have to suck it up and, like I say, evaluate what you actually need. I was certainly, looking at, I want the newest model, whereas now I'm sort of looking at is, actually, I'm buying this locomotive, this is what I'm going to do to, in terms of rolling stock, I need to get this rolling stock to make a decent rake train. Any more added to that will be great, but I think I generally go for, like, say, 6 wagons for a small rake. If I can increase that, it'd be brilliant. Same with coaches, generally sort of start with about 4. I'd like to have the full rake, but, look at my Mark IVs. I've got 4 coaches, the DVT and the locomotive itself. However, I can increase the coaches as I go. There's quite a lot still in retail at the moment, so I can keep on buying one every month until eventually I've got the full rake of 9 coaches. I might not run all 9 at the same time, but that way I can increase it, or I can increase it to the rate that I want it to. And that's generally what I have been doing. So there are sort of ways around sort of jumping the cost. The next thing as well is, you don't necessarily have to buy from Hornby. Certainly talking with your wallet will dictate what happens with the prices. If you don't buy from Hornby, and a lot of people don't, eventually it will get discounted. So there is that sort of, do you take the chance and wait? Because at the end of the day, a business doesn't want to have stock sat there for ages where it's potentially the oil and everything is going to start clagging up, and therefore it won't run properly. So there is a timescale where you'll find that retailers will get a brand new locomotive. They're generally discounted by 10 to 15%, and then it will stay like that. But you might find after about 6 months, they might discount it to 30%. I've seen some even go to 50% after about sort of, a year. So there is that chance. Do you take the chance and wait? Because that will certainly give you a bit of a chance of getting a bit more of a discount. And that way you can still get the locomotive that you want, but there is that. There's either that, you sort of think, not necessarily saying get a piggy bank, but if you, I find that I'm terrible with money. I will admit that openly. My partner will definitely confirm this. I am awful with money. So I've been desperately trying to get a lot better at managing it. And one thing I find quite easy to do is, when I get paid, I go to the cash point and draw out cash for my models. That then will go pretty much in the house. It's in my wallet, and it will stay there, and I will not spend it. If I do spend it, so be it. But what I'll do is then that way I can each month say, I might take £10, £20, whatever I can spare. That will go into the funds, and eventually, it's going to take a long time if I get £10, but certainly you find over time, I've saved a little bit of money this month. Here you go, I can, add an extra 20 quid to it. Or birthdays, Christmas come around, you might get a little bit of money then. So I go, actually I've got, enough money to buy a locomotive now. Or, as I say, ask for it for Christmas. It's the right time, rather than having your gran, mom, dad all buying separate presents. Just say, look, I really appreciate all the money that you do spend on me, and rather than having multiple presents, I'd rather have just this one locomotive. I'd like everybody to chip in for it. This is what I'd like. I'm okay with having one gift, and I think that is something that we all sort of need to get out of our system, really, is that we need to stop spending money on useless stuff and spend it on the things that actually matter. And I definitely think that will help. As I say, that's what generally I've been doing, is that it gets to birthdays and Christmas and I sort of go, I'd rather not have a new coat, a pair of shoes, whatever like that. I'm making do with what I've got, and say, I really, really would like a new locomotive. This is the one I'd like. Any money that you could give towards it would be brilliant. And that's generally how I've been doing it for the last year. And it's been going great. As you've noticed, my sort of locomotive collection has slowed down a bit, but it means that I'm getting what I like rather than thinking, I'll settle for something that I don't actually want. So same with the rolling stock. As I say, I'm buying rakes and increasing rakes of what I'm actually collecting to model. So my current thing at the moment, and you can probably see them behind me, is I'm collecting steel wagons. It's for an upcoming locomotive that I'm getting. The reviews for these will be coming out soon, but I've got that upcoming locomotive coming. I sort of bought it because I like the look of it, and then I thought, you know what, I haven't actually got anything for it to pull to be more prototypical, so I've decided, I've sort of stocked up on a few steel wagons. At the moment I've got 4, slowly increasing that as I'm going along. Same as I went to a toy fair, and at the same time as buying the where am I going here? There. There we go. It's a bit harder when you're in it in reverse, but the TGVs that you can see there, I bought those, and at the same time I picked up an OTA wagon, just because I thought, oh, that looks cool, and it was really, really cheap for what it was. I paid £10 for it, brand new. I thought, oh, bargain. But then looking at my sort of stock, I haven't really got anything that suits it, so it's like, oh, great, now I'm looking for a locomotive to pull that. So I know what I want to get. It's just whether I can find the right one from the right manufacturer. And then that sort of brings us on to the next point, is certainly for beginners, I think, if you're looking into getting into the hobby and you're thinking, crikey, it's expensive, which it is. It's just how it is. But you do how I started. You don't necessarily need to have a brand new locomotive. I remember when I was a kid growing up, I had a model railway that my granddad built for me, but I never had any new locomotives. I think the only new locomotive I ever got was the Hornby Bill from Thomas and Friends. That's the only new locomotive I ever got bought. My uncle bought me that, and it cost £40. That was back when it was brand new. Everything else was second hand, and I used to enjoy it. We used to go down to the model shop, and we used to, I'd be there for hours just looking at every single locomotive, going, which one would I like, which one would I not like. And I remember I always wanted a tender loco, but my granddad said, it's just too expensive. We can't get them. So I ended up going for a lot of different things. But over my time of sort of collecting locomotives, I had obviously Thomas the Tank Engine, Bill. I had, it turned out it was actually an American HO wagon, but I always used to think it was just a tank engine. That no longer works anymore. The whole body just fell apart. I still got it, but the body actually comes off of the chassis. The clips are completely broken, so yeah, there's no way of getting that to stay on there anymore, and it doesn't run very well. But it used to run really, really well. But I had that was like a little American tank engine. I had the HST, was probably the best one that I ever got. That was the old 80s style intercity executive livery. That still runs today. A little bit slow getting warmed up, but once you've sort of ran a few laps, it runs just like new. And I had a class 58 as well, and that was all the locos I had before I sort of, you get to that phase. And I'd probably encourage people to not do that, because it's sort of what I wish I'd not done. Is you sort of think, oh, I can't collect model trains in my teenage years. If somebody finds out, they're going to take the mick out of me. So what? If your friends take the mick out of you, they're not really your friends. They can have a bit of banter, but my friends know that I've got a model railway now, and they're sort of asked, like, oh, how long have you been doing that for? And I said, well, I did stop, but I sort of started getting back into it during lockdown, and it is how it is now. I'm happy with my hobby. They know about it. Nobody takes the mick out of you. Nobody cares at the end of the day. It's, you like what you like, and I think that's a good thing to definitely own it. If you like model trains, do it. But we're diverging off topic for saving money here. But yeah, what I'm saying is go pre-owned, because you can get quite a lot of even new release models. Well, I'll say not new release models, but relatively new release models for generally a lot cheaper once they're being pre-owned. I know Rails of Sheffield has a great pre-owned section. So does TMC. I'm sure a lot of other companies do. It's just that I do find their websites quite easy to navigate. So yeah, it's good to have a sort of look through, because you might be able to find, like, a Bachmann locomotive, which Bachmann inherently is very expensive for a brand new loco. You can generally find a new Bachmann loco, or relatively new, for, I'm going to sneeze, just bear with me. So yeah, so you go through the pre-owned section and you'll probably find a relatively new Bachmann loco for quite a reasonable discount. And that's something to think of. You know, if you can't afford over the £200 bracket for a large tender loco or a large Bobo or Coco diesel, and you're stuck having little 040s or 060s in your collection, go to the pre-owned section. That's definitely something to think about, because the pre-owned section's in there, especially if you go into store to purchase it, which I know Rails, a lot of their stock they don't have in the shop. But if you give them enough notice, they will quite happily bring it down from their warehouse into store. You can see it, they've got a test track in there, they'll test it for you. If you're happy with it, purchase it, great, you've saved, you know, a couple of hundred, well, £100, which definitely is, you know, a win-win really. If you could save a couple of £100, sorry, no, not a couple £100, but £100, that's money in your pocket that you think, oh, actually, if I've saved up the £250 that the new model is, but you pay £150 or £130 for it, that extra money you could say, oh, I bought the loco, I could buy a load of rolling stock for it as well, and then you've got a nice rake to go with your new train. And certainly, you know, if you're a new hobbyist as well, you've got to think, not all hobbies are for everybody, so starting off small is going to help. You know, I'd definitely say start off with an 040 or an 060 loco, get a little layout set up. If you're into it, you're into it. But that's basically how I would start. You know, we're going off topic again in terms of obviously the price increase, but that's definitely the way I would sort of lean to go if your budget isn't there. There's ways as well I think Hornby could probably fix that, and just bear with me just a second, I will get to that. I'm just going to go and blow my nose a bit. So yeah, so my ways for not necessarily fixing Hornby, but I think what Hornby could do to, one, get some more profit so that 7 million loss isn't, you know, we'll get some profit back into the business. I definitely think cutting down on the range is a good thing. That is what they've done, you know. Stop trying to put out lots of locomotives a year. However, variations of locos, you know, that is definitely something that they should be doing. And obviously they have, you know, just released the new Railroad HST. Everybody knows my love for HSTs, yada yada yada. But obviously they brought out the train set for a couple of years ago, so that was the GWR HST. Now the one thing that they didn't do with that is they didn't release any coaches that you could buy with that. It was just the one Mark III that you got in the set, and that was that. I purchased 2 sets just so I could get 2 coaches. I've got 2 locos that don't do anything. So I am thinking of actually just trading them in. Obviously, they have the GWR coaches for the more, so the railways range. But the downside to them is they don't look anything like the railroad ones. So you can either get rid of the coaches entirely, just have the set and buy the up-to-date coaches, which won't look too out of place with the locomotives. Either that, the new ones that they've just released, the Grand Central livery, I think another thing that they probably could have done, because I think a lot of people would have bought them, release the GWR coaches as well. They've got the full, is it 5-car set that they've done, or 5 coaches that they've done for the Grand Central, something like that. They could have done that for the GWR, and that would have, I think, added a little bit of business. Going in with the Grand Central livery straight away, I probably wouldn't have done that. I would have probably played it safe, and the 2 liveries I would have gone for would have either been the Intercity BR Blue, that's the blue and the yellow, Or I would have gone for Intercity Swallow, which I think they did release a railroad version of the Intercity Swallow a few years ago, but I never saw any coaches for it. So it's something they could have done. But yeah, I would have probably gone safe, gone with the BR Blue. That would have been, I think, a better one to go for. It's a bit more iconic. And I think even the modelers that want the highly detailed model, but aren't willing to pay £300 for it, they could have at least got a new tooled model, because the main thing that the new ones haven't got, they haven't got the Ringfield motors anymore. So it's a little bit more reliable running. Yes, they do have traction tyres and everything like that, but they are a lot better running than the old models. So that is one thing. And at least you can get a HST set that has, you know, I'm trying to think of the words now. You can get a newly tooled HST set, and you're not going to pay a fortune for it. I think they're about 150 quid now. And that comes to my next thing. You're paying £150 for the set. Now, as you know from my reviews, when I picked up these HST packs off of eBay, they come dummy car, you got the power car, and 2 coaches in a pack. Now, I think that's where maybe they are going wrong, especially with enticing beginners in. Certainly I can understand in terms of budget cuts and everything like that, but just have 1 coach. If you did the power car, dummy car, and 1 coach, that gives a child or a beginner the perfect set to start with. You've got, oh look, you can take a train out of the box, ready to run, and in their imagination, you know, that train might have 10 coaches on it, even though you've got the 1. Then you introduce the coaches into the range. So you go, well, we've given you 1 coach, but it's a first class, here's a buffet. We've got a few standard class. That way, you can increase it. And the best thing with this is, you know, you've got release 1 a year for the next few years, and I hope they do continue with this, but is release 1 a year, and you can go through all the liveries, because there's so many of them, and because they are sort of like the Railroad Plus range, they've got a nice livery, but it's on the old tooling, so the tooling's costing nothing. They've got the tooling's paid for itself at this point. That will add some cash flow, because the only thing you're paying for at this point is manufacturing costs and shipping costs. That is literally it. Everything else is paid for. The tooling's paid for, so you can get that out every year, and you can keep on essentially pumping those out. Once you've sold through, so if you make, you know, 3,000 units, once they've sold through, or you manufacture them, you can be straight on to the next one, so that you might even get to like releasing 2 a year, 1 at the start of the year, 1 at the end of the year. That way you're sort of hitting the New Year buzz when everybody's paid off Christmas and they've got some money, and you get to the end of the year and you've got these sort of release it around sort of September time. You've got that birthday Christmas buzz of a lot of people tend to have the birthdays from sort of like September to December, but then you've also got the Christmas buzz in there that people will be buying things for Christmas ready to give to their children. So you've got like 2 sets that you could get out a year. Obviously they have the train set. You've done the GWR train set, so why not add, you know, bring that back out. Just stick a new package on it, same train set. There you go, something else done. And I think that's one thing with train sets to do as well is, you know, and I think they sort of have started learning like this, is that kids today don't necessarily want steam. They want something that they could see on the tracks today. So, good one, Hornby Class 66. From what I've heard, is not the best of models in terms of runners, because you've got the likes of the Acura Scale / Hattons and the Bachmann Class 66, which are a really, really good runner. But Hornby Class 66 is a railroad locomotive. They've got loads of liveries already available. Stick that in a train set, stick a few wagons in it. There you go, train set complete, isn't it? It's things like that I think they need to bring back in. Chuck them in train sets that are reasonably affordable. You know, if you're doing a train set it should cost less than £200. Certainly 150 is probably a bit pushing it, but I'd go for the £180 mark, aim for that. Because there's a lot of wagons that are already, I think outdated, but certainly would suit a railroad set. So you could chuck all your old coupling, D-type coupling wagons, put them into your train sets, and newly tooled ones can go out, because it can't be that hard to change that coupling. That D-type coupling needs to be gone for new releases, Hornby. It's the one thing that everybody gets bugged about, is that you pay for a brand new wagon in the railways range, and it's got the D-type coupling. So all those tooling need to go into train sets. Cheap and affordable. Certainly, obviously, not saying get rid of steam entirely, because there's plenty of people on lower incomes that will want a new locomotive. Such as, you've got the Flying Scotsman and the Mallard. They are perfect for train sets and in the railroad range. They've just had the Mallard train set, so maybe bring out the Flying Scotsman train set. However, we don't need it in the LNER apple green anymore. Bring it out in the BR blue. Easy to repaint that. Obviously, they have the BR blue in the railways range, but have a cheaper one. Obviously, they had the Tornado set. You could bring that out in a different livery as well. There's plenty of them. Bring them out in train sets, as well as obviously the coaches. Make more affordable coaches. That way, the railroad range is quite boosted up, but it's using old tooling, so it's stuff that you literally just every year just respraying. And I don't think people will be that mad about it, especially for the HSTs. HSTs, quick respray, new one out. Oh, there we go. We've got the Midland Main Line. Oh, new one's coming out this year. It's the first Great Western. Quite easy to do. I don't know why they're not doing that. The only thing I wish they would do is, and I don't know if they've sorted this on the Grand Central one, because I don't have it and I don't plan on getting it, is the dummy car. Put the lights back in it. It's not hard. It would cost pence to do. Just put the lights back in the dummy car, because it does make it a bit pointless to run that without it. But they're really my sort of things that I would say would sort of, I think, get a bit more cash flow into Hornby. Even with the railways range, there's quite a few models in there that you could easily respray. And I think in the past what they've probably done is, and it's what sort of say the likes of a Curoscale do, we're bringing out the new Class 37, we're bringing it out in 6 liveries. There you go. Whereas take the likes of the Class 91, when this was released, they pretty much released every single form of it. Granted, not every loco in the numbering, but every livery was done. So this probably won't come round again for a while. They're sort of the locos that I think should be maybe just a one-off. Do one a year. Same with the HSTs, the updated, all fancy, all singing, dancing HST. Bringing one out a year definitely is the right thing. It's a bit more of an expensive loco, so that way you're not getting through the entire livery as you go. And I think that way you're slowing down your range, but at the same time, because you're using old tooling, the price will sort of pay for itself over time. I don't know what tooling costs for the brand new locomotives, but it's got to have so many units before it's paid off. Once you recycle something, take the horrible Class 92 that I reviewed from 1995. Shouldn't have been in the railways range, it should have been in the railroad range. Would have been fine with it. But there's plenty of liveries of those. I'm fine with them doing the 1995 tooling if it's in the railroad range. But just respray it. You've got the tooling. That tooling in 1995 should have been way paid for now in 2024. Just keep recycling it. I don't think, a beginner modelist isn't going to bat an eyelid at that. But you could do a couple of resprays of that. Don't necessarily have to have the Caledonian Sleeper or the GBRF that they have out, chuck a new one on. You could do a DB Schenker, it's just red, easy to do that. So they're my things that I think Hornby could look at doing, just to sort of fill the hole rather than doing like a price increase. But at the same time, they have done the price increase, so all I'm saying is just rambling, and it's not really mattering at this point. But if you've managed to make it through my money talks and prospects on what Hornby can do to help themselves, then I thank you very much for that, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. And if you have, don't forget to drop a comment down below, and I'll hopefully see you in the next video. So take care, everyone. Bye bye.